Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV, live from the Whirlwind workshop once again to take on this challenge of a live Q&A session. Very exciting times. Hope everybody's having a good week, as good as you can manage. Yeah, here at Whirlwind Sailing Holidays, we have been very much in the process of putting things together, digging stuff out and getting stuff ready for the season. And probably one of the most exciting days of all just today, because just this morning we received a stack of rubber grip. Oh yeah. And because it's been a dream to put this rubber grip on the Hobie Tigers, the Pacifics, more of it on the 16s. Sort of, it's the same grip that we have on the C2. And here is what it looks like. It's the diamond one. Oh yeah. And this is really nice. And the stuff that we got, it came with a self-adhesive backing, and we've just finished re-gripping one of the Tigers, and oh my days, it looks fantastic. And it's going to be so good to sail as well, because when you cover your boat in rubber, it just feels so much more friendly because you've got that grip, that reassurance. The boat is a little bit softer if you slam into the side, that kind of thing. So that is exciting. When we re-gripped the Tiger, I did actually have a camera rolling. So that video should be coming around Tuesday or Wednesday next week. We've also got on Sunday the next What Went Wrong video, which I think you are going to enjoy. There are some good moments in that bad boy. All right, so we've got some people checking in. Let's check in with who's checking in. All right, so we have got Brian checking in straight in with a question. I'll come back to that after I've checked in with everyone else who's checking in, Brian. Then we've got Toot in Texas. Hi, Toot. Toot is always there. Nice to have you on board. Then we've got Carl from Lake Buchanan, Texas, refurbished 1978 Hobie 16. Lovely. Oh, yeah. Would love to see that on Show Us Your Cat, actually. I love the 1970s 16s, especially if you've got some of the original colours on there. Like if you're lucky enough to have original sails in condition, which is good enough to still use. Now that is a real treat. Stephen at Graph and Water, great to have you on board, Stephen. I believe we've got a preloaded question from you that we're going to be looking at in a bit. We've got Laura in Santa Cruz. Hello there. Great to have you on board as always. Who else we got? We got Nick in, I think, either being London or maybe Bulgaria, I think. Nice to have you with us, Nick. Greg's on board in Australia. Cool. Must be pretty late where you are, Greg. Must be about 3 in the morning, I think. So thanks for tuning in. Got Robin in Florida. Hello. We got Alexander. Oh, Alexander, who was featured in last weekend's Show Us Your Cat. He's getting in there with a how's it. All right. We've got Chris in Texas. Up, homies. Good to have you with us, Chris, as always. Arno's with us as well in Alberta, Canada. Chris is here. Everybody's here already. This is great that everybody's on board. Hi, Martin. All right. Oh, Carl said that he and Toot have been putting together a feature for Show Us Your Cat. That is nice. I look forward to that. Okay, before I proceed with... All right. Oh, hello. This is quite interesting. Toot is actually asking the same question that Stephen had as a preloaded question. So that is coming up, Toot, where Toot says, explain weight of two-man crew during tax, please. great stuff. Yeah, we'll be coming on to that shortly. Got Gaz in Leon C. Sunny and champagne sailing. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's been pretty warm here today, actually. I think we've definitely broken through the 20-degree mark. It was a bit like whew, at times today. Yeah, sticking rubber to a Hobie Tiger video coming next week. That is the big news here. All right. Chris says, got the whole globe on board today. Yeah, I think there's not too many countries not represent. Actually, there's quite a few. So if you're just tuning in, let us know where you are. If we don't know where you are, let us know. So Nick is in Bulgaria at the moment. Okay, it is midnight where Greg is in Australia at the moment. Toot says, can't wait to see Rooster's videos. And Jibs also. I don't know quite what you're talking about there, but I can't wait either. All right. And we got Michael, first time in from Washington State. Great to have you on board, Michael. If you've got any questions, I think you know what to do. Jibes. Okay, Jibes. Gotcha. All right. Anyway, so back to Brian's question from the top. Okay. Brian is from Aurelia, Ontario, Canada. Sails an FX1 with the spinnaker. Very nice. And he is looking for instructions on how to fold a mylar mainsail for shipping. Okay, so it was quite handy because Brian put this question in before I started. So I had time to pick up the telephone and phone Thanos from OS3 Sales, who is an expert at shipping sails, because that's what his job is. He builds the sails, he'll put them in a box, put them in the post, and then someone will open them up and go, ah, lovely. It's like Christmas. So there is a little bit of probably not what you want to hear, Brian, for the answer of this. But what Thanos has said, which I would take as the you should listen, is with any mylar sails, you should never fold them. If you put a fold in a mylar sail, like if the sail is usually like this and you fold it, you're going to put a crease in the sail, and that crease is going to be in there forever. So what do you do about shipping a mylar mainsail? Well, what Thanos suggests is to always leave the battens in the sail but untied. That way the sail is going to have its rigidity, its support, so it's not going to kind of just bend in half. And then he says the best way to ship it is in a cardboard box, obviously quite a long one. That is going to give it the amount of protection it deserves. But if you want the sail to arrive in good condition, don't fold it. There may be other people who say, actually, you can fold them. But I think what Thanos is saying is absolutely bang on. Don't fold it, because you're going to put a crease in the sail, which is always going to be there. He also said, on the topic of mylar sails, when you're storing your mylar sails, don't store them in a place where it's going to get really hot. So the most common place you might put your mylar sails where it's hot would be in your trailer. If it gets hot, it's really bad for the material, the glue, and he actually says that the sail will have a bit of shrinkage if you store it in a really hot place. So something else just to keep in mind there. I know if you've been storing your sail in a trailer box in the desert somewhere where it's really hot, and you've found it very convenient, and now you're told it's not a good idea, that's a bit of a pain. But you just have to think of what's more important, the convenience, or if you want your sail to stay in really nice condition. So thanks very much for your question there, Brian. Sorry that the answer perhaps isn't what you wanted to hear, but I think that is certainly the best way to ship your mylar sail. All right, so just scrolling down, seeing if anyone else is in here. So Michael in Washington State is rebuilding a Hobie 16, bought for $1. Whew. That is, well, like I saw someone write this earlier as a comment who said he got a free boat, didn't pay anything for it at all. And they actually can end up being quite expensive with the amount of things you need to spend on it. But I think most important when you've got an older boat or a boat that you don't know the history of is get some new rigging on that bad boy. Make sure that the mast is not coming down. All right. So, Robin asks Michael, what part of Washington are you from? Oh, and then Michael responds, okay, I'll leave you to it. All right. Greg says, everyone hit the like button, show some support to Joe and Joyrider TV. Yeah, thanks for that there, Greg. That it does really help if you can hit the like button for more people to have this presented in front of them. All right. We've got Lee on board, joining late. Not that late, to be honest, just 10 minutes. I think you're all right. We'll live with that. Russell's on board as well. Hi, Russell. He says, Joe, we have got to get you a ride in Florida for the Worlds in October. Yes. Says somebody set Joe up with an F-18 stateside. Yes, I agree. I would absolutely love to come to Florida to sail in the F-18 World Championships. I'm still a bit on the fence about the F-18 Europeans in Italy this year, whether I can actually go. I would love to go because it's the F-18 Europeans are being held at Lake Garda, which is one of the best regatta venues in the world. Because if it's sunny at Lake Garda, that means you're getting some good wind. We're talking between 16 and 18 knots average, which is absolutely perfect sailing conditions. And not only that, all of the clubs at Lake Garda are actually professionally run for running events. So when you go and do an event at Lake Garda, that event will be run like a business. So when they say you're starting on time, that means you're starting on time. There won't be like drifting marks or marks in the wrong place or race committee who sets a start line that you can't cross on starboard tack, that kind of thing. So I'm quite keen. All right, Michael says, next project, sails, both main and jib. Any suggestions? No interest in regatta rules. Okay, yes, so if you are looking to get new sails for your 16 or any boat, then if you have a look through the JOYRIDER TV back catalogue, I did do a video on aftermarket sales where we actually asked the whole of the JOYRIDER TV global community for what sail makers they've used to make their sails and what the results were. So check that one out. I think if you put in a search in YouTube for aftermarket sales and then put in just write Hobie Cat, then it should come up. If it doesn't, let me know in the actual comments below and I'll put a link to that video unless somebody else can find it. All right. Chris says nothing as expensive as a free boat. Oh, yeah. And then Toot says paid $200 for a Hobie 17 and then spent $2,800 on the rebuild. Very nice. Yeah, that is how it works. Michael 16's got all new rigging, new trampoline, new rudder casting. Very nice. All right, Carl says his was free. He put on a new trampoline, rudders and lines, sanded the gel coat. Very nice. Michelle's on board. Hello, Michelle. Great to have you with us. Hope you're having a good day. Logan's on board as well. Hi, Logan. Getting a Hobie 16. Got any special advice? Yeah, we have. Now, I'm just trying to remember what is the the special advice guidelines when getting a Hobie 16. I think the first thing is a 16 is a great choice to go for because there are so many about. I think you need to set yourself first the geographical limit of how far are you willing to travel to get the boat. How far are you willing to travel? How much are you willing to spend? First two things. And then when it actually comes to looking at a boat, I have done a video on this which outlines all of the different things to look for when you're buying a used boat and how much it's going to cost to replace certain parts of the boat. So the parts of the boat which you're most likely to need to replace is number one, as we've said quite a lot, is the rigging. So that's the shrouds and the forestay is almost certainly going to be worth replacing. After that is going to come like the soft parts. So the trampoline is probably next because unless the boat's been stored indoors or it's had a cover on it, the trampoline is going to have been exposed to the elements all the time, whether the boat's been getting used or not. So trampoline, next thing. And then the next thing that may need replacing is the sails, the jib probably first, then the mainsail. So this could all add up in expense, but these are the bits of the boat to really have a good look at and see what the condition is. So if you think of how much it's going to cost, new rigging, I'm just going to throw some numbers out. These aren't particularly accurate. New rigging, let's say $200. Not the trapeze wires, but the forestay, the shrouds. $200 new rigging. New trampoline, probably something like $600 for an aftermarket one. New sails, something like about $1,000 if you get new aftermarket, like made by another sailmaker sails. And they're the main things that might need replacing apart from ropes and elastic, that sort of thing. After that, you want to look at the hulls and make sure that the hulls are not soft. So what you want to do is like the decks of the hulls. So on top of the hulls, give them a bit of almost like CPR. So if you give it a really good push with the palm of your hand, and if it moves a little bit, it's obviously not so bad. If it moves a lot and makes a really horrible crunching noise, then that is going to cost a bit to repair unless you happen to be good at repairs yourself. So something to consider. So the top of the hulls and then the sides of the hulls for softness, listening for that crunchy noise, and just consider how much that might cost to repair. So a soft deck could be, I don't know, $100 if it's a little bit, maybe more if it's a lot, just worth looking at. Other than that, does it come with a trailer? Does it come with a trolley? These are all things that add more value, like the value of even if it's a roadworthy trailer, that's $500 straight away. If it's a launching trolley with the big wheels, that's worth about $500 as well. So there you go. Those are things worth looking at when you're going shopping for a 16. All right, Carl says gel coat on pontoons, about $1,500 so far. I think that's how much Carl spent so far. Nice. All right, Toot is just tooting in with Whirlwind sails. Yeah, I think if not that anyone else is not as good, but if I was in the States and I was going to get non-original sails, especially if I'm sailing a Hobie, I would get Whirlwind sails because Chip, the sailmaker there, used to work for Hobie as a sailmaker. He knows exactly how the sails are put together in the Hobie Cat factory. He can get the same colours as the original Hobie Cat sails as well. I think it's a very good choice in California somewhere, I believe. All right, we've got Rick on board, who says, what are your thoughts on older Nacra 5.2? Ooh, this is a tough one, only because I don't really know that much about the Nacra 5.2. But I think, so 5.2 is about 16 feet, isn't it? I think it's a 16-foot boat with dagger boards, I believe. So I think it's a great boat. It's going to clip along very nicely. It's not too heavy. You have got the extra job of adjusting the dagger boards, but it's going to be a really good boat. Yeah, I think it's as good as anything else. But of course, when looking at getting any boat which is a bit older, just have a look at the condition of it and keep your kind of mind open to what other types of boat are available within a realistic traveling distance to pick it up. Like, I'm not saying don't go for the Nacra 5.2, but perhaps there is a classic Hobie 18. It's bigger boat, it's going to be heavier. I would also do some research on what is the ideal crew weight for that boat. How, yeah, because I don't know this off the top of my head. What is the weight of a Nacra 5.2? If it's like 120 kilograms, that's going to be a lot easier to manage on the beach, especially if you're on your own, than like a Hobie 18 or similar, which is going to be like upwards of 150 kilos. Yeah, so what is the weight of the boat? What is the ideal crew weight? Are you going to be sailing more single-handed or with a crew? Oh, and Toot is in there with some helpful advice, because Toot had one. Very fast, very sensitive, and very fast. There we go. All right, bit of chat here about Whirlwind sails. Yeah, there's a bit more love for Whirlwind sails going there, with just the main up, lots of sail above you. Nice. All right, Chris knows about the 5.2 as well. The 5.2 is a great boat as long as the stringers haven't started breaking down. Okay, something to look into there. Right, Michael says, Whirlwind is very close to where I live. We'll try to post on Show Us Your Cat. Yeah, perhaps what I should do is maybe I should get in touch, or if anybody knows Chip at Whirlwind Sales, get in touch and say what we want is a sail loft tour of Whirlwind Sails with a little bit of an insight onto the production of the sails, all in about 6 minutes, if possible. That would be very nice. All right, back to the 5.2. Very fast and very good in chop with the almost plumb bow. Yeah, so lots of volume in the front, and it's about 150 kilograms. So about the same as a Hobie 18. There we go. I think that was pretty good so far. I'd like to think so. So hit the like button if you think it's been pretty good so far. All right. All right. So Rick says he's mostly going to be single-handing, considering this versus a Hobie 18. Wow, it's almost like I knew. All right, nice. Yeah, Chris says I can do a sail off tour at C&C in Houston if needed. It's not whether it's needed or not. I think it's more of I think it would be for a tour of any sail loft, it would be very interesting. So I think, yes, if we could have something that is of a Show Us Your Cat kind of duration, like between 3 and 6 minutes, I think we're looking like it's a good idea. All right, by the way, if you've just tuned in, don't miss what went wrong on Sunday at the usual time. This one is not that the other ones weren't absolute corkers, but this one is really going to tickle you. We have got some frills and spills coming there. All right, Michael says, sorry, where is the like button? Yeah, I don't actually know, because when I'm broadcasting, I don't get to see the user interface. It just looks like a thumbs up, I think. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm going to steam in with our first pre-loaded question, which is from Stephen, who sails at Graph and Water, and also Toot was asking about this earlier. And Stephen asks, when and where to move to is the best timing and positioning for the crew and helm during attack and jibe? Is there a difference for strong and light winds? I usually initiate the turn from the trapeze when it's windy, then move to the windward side of the boom, just in the middle for the changeover with the tiller and the main sheet. Should it all be on one side to lift the opposite hull? Okay, so if we have a look at the light winds first, so if we're going for a tack, did you say tack or jibe? Can we just do tack? Tack and jibe. Okay, so light winds, the tack, we're going to be starting off in this, well, in this sort of direction. As we know, the wind always comes from the top. And where are our crew positions likely to be? Where should they be? So we're talking ideal world. So the helm should be, if it's light winds, around here. Crew could be anywhere in this sort of arena. If we're talking Hobie 16 or similar, if we're talking bigger boat, F18, Hurricane 5.9, Prindle 19, then I'd say the crew would want to be up there. So when we're going for attack or any sort of movements around the boat in light winds, is when we move around the boat, we want to be really getting our inner mouse to move around the boat like a ballerina, so we're not disturbing the flow of water on the boat. We don't want to be bouncing across the boat like we're on a trampoline, although it's called a trampoline. We want to be going very slowly across the boat, very sort of tiptoeing, so that we don't disturb the balance of the boat. When we're tacking, the windward hull that we're starting off turns a much smaller distance than the leeward hull. This hull has got to go all the way round here, whereas this hull is just going round here. So by having more weight on the windward hull going into the tack, it means we're not putting as much weight on the hull, which has got to turn more. So that is going to be beneficial. So that is so if you have been in the middle of the boat or on the leeward side as the crew, you want to tiptoe onto the windward side pretty early, like even before the tack has started. So that is one. Then the helm is going to want to move to the back to initiate the tack. And then as the boat is turning through the wind, again, same reason, because this hull isn't turning so far, the helm wants to stay on the original windward side until the moment when the jib backs, because when the jib backs, that is our indication that we're head to wind. So when the wind comes in the other side of the jib like that, that means we're head to wind, and we're pretty much, the completion of the tack is pretty much a done deal. So don't move across the boat until the jib backs in the lighter wind. When we're talking about lighter wind, I would say if you haven't been trapezing, sorry, there's a funny sunny bit, just trying to get rid of that. Did that work? Yeah, I think it did. Just about. Yeah, so don't move across the boat until the jib backs if it hasn't been trapezing conditions. And then as soon as the jib backs, that's the time to move across the boat. Don't try to do anything fancy. Just get across the boat. You need to be near to the back of the boat to be able to swing the tiller extension around the back nicely. And then as soon as you're through to the other side of the boat, sit down, look forwards, get the boat going forwards, and then move forwards on the boat. Personally, I find in the lighter wind, the best way of moving around the boat, especially if you've got to come up to the front, is to walk rather than sort of, I don't know, crawl around the boat on your hands and knees. Much easier just to walk around the boat, as long as there's not waves which are going to try to knock you off the boat. All right, so that is for lighter winds. And then when the wind gets stronger, yes, we're going to be starting off on the trapeze if possible, which is nice. So here's the team. So we're going to be starting off on the trapeze. And then what I really like to do, but what I've experienced is not everybody likes this, is to do a count. If I'm helming the boat, to do a countdown from 5, and on 0, that is when we're initiating the turn. That means that the crew, and it's good for you as well as the helm, it's focusing your mind that yes, we are tacking on 0. And the crew knows exactly when the boat is going to tack, which means they know exactly how much time they're going to need to come in off the trapeze and get ready to get across the boat. Like I said before, when you're crossing the boat, especially as the crew, is the boom, is when you go, if you're going under the boom, always lead with the head. Go head first under the boom. So much easier. It's a real game changer. If you have been trying to go through kind of sideways, it's very awkward, but head first, much easier. Same if you're sailing with a deck sweeper mainsail. And how do we draw this? I don't even know. Like that. And it's difficult getting across. Lead with the head, so much easier. Very nice. So how to initiate the tack if you've been out on the trapeze. So you're counting down from 5, or if you don't like counting down from 5, you'll probably find yourself having a set of words that you generally use, such as, okay, we need to tack. That would be the first one. Okay, when should we go? Are we going now? Yes, let's go now. Okay, coming in off the trapeze. It's really good if you have, if you communicate really clearly on the boat and saying things like, if you're the helm or the crew, okay, I'm coming in off the trapeze, just so that everybody knows what's going on. Unless you're a team that sails together all the time and you know exactly what the other person's doing without any need for communication. Communicating really changes things. So say, right, I'm coming in off the trapeze, they'll know what's going on. So coming off the trapeze and then get ready to go across. Like Stephen said, if it is windy and you feel that you have got the skills and the agility to stay out on the trapeze until you're putting the boat through, then stay out on the trapeze until the last minute. But what could happen is there's more chance of ballsing it up if you stay out on the trapeze until late. So if there's waves of any sort, or if the wind is really, really strong, it is better as the helm to come onto the boat first and then initiate the turn. And then I wouldn't worry about anything fancy during the tack when it's windy. Main thing is, let's get the head to wind boat. All right. So at the time when the jib backs, really important that the crew is in this corner, because that's the corner that's going to come up in the air if you're too far back, or if you haven't got any weight on that side of the boat. Then that is when you might pop a pretty serious wheelie, which on certain types of boat will actually result in a capsize. So the crew needs to, their focus needs to be, all right, by the time the jib backs, I have to be in that corner when it's windy. And then as the helm, same kind of vibe as in the light wind, but you just, if you're not so good at getting across the boat, then perhaps move across the boat a little bit earlier. But again, if you can leave it, the moving across the boat until the jib backs, that is just going to give you a better rate of success with your tacks than going across earlier. Because what happens is if you go across too earlier, whenever you cross the boat, there's a very large chance that you're going to slightly alter the angle of the rudders. And if you do that when you're going up into the wind, that could lead to a stalled tack. So there you go. Don't try to do anything fancy. The crew needs to get to that corner by the time the jib backs. And then again, once the helm comes across, sit down, look forwards as soon as you can, get the boat moving forwards. And then two ways of doing it. If it's kind of like just marginal double trapezing conditions, it's much better for the helm to get the boat powered up first, get the boat moving, and then go out on the trapeze. But if it is like white knuckle, kind of like very windy, like definitely trapezing all the time conditions, then it's worth just throwing yourself out on the trapeze first and then getting the boat going once you're out. So that is the tacking. All right, just before we go on to jibing, just catching up on the live chat. All right. Chris says, I love my Hurricane 5.9, and so should you. What a great boat. I only had the privilege to sail one once, but it was very nice. The Hurricane 5.9 was built back in the late 80s to start with, I believe, as a training boat for the Tornado, because the Tornado is, back then, there wasn't such a thing as a tilting trailer. So if you were going to take your Tornado on the road, you would have to take it to bits and then reassemble it at the new venue. So the 5.9 was built to be much narrower. And I believe the Hurricane 5.9 is only 2 meters 45 wide, which for a boat of that size, almost 6 meters long, is very narrow. It's got a big rig, same sail area as a Tornado, which means on a Hurricane 5.9, you'll be flying a hull in probably about 3 knots of wind. Very powerful boat. I think if you had to choose a light wind boat for 2 people, the 5.9 is right up there. All right. So just in with the Stevens, we've got Eric on board who's giving it a smiley face and hello, nice to have you on board. Stephen says, when solo tacking jibing, I watch the boom for when to move because I'm looking out at the back. Not a lot I can do about watching a jib. I'll stay more to windward tomorrow. Yeah, I generally sit on the side looking forwards when I've initiated the turn like that. And then when the jib goes, then I start looking at the back rather than looking at the back when I put the rudders across. All right, Russell says, I tack on 1. That's good. My wife expects me to tack on 0. Leads to a lot of funny moments on the boat. Now that is absolute class. Yeah, maybe start tacking on 4, 5, 4. Gosh. Lee says, I was taught to say coming about. Yeah, of course, there are the traditional commands for when you're tacking. In what I was taught when I learnt to sail was when you're thinking about tacking, you say ready about, the crew says ready, and then when you initiate, you say lee ho. There you go. Which I suppose would mean I'm putting the rudders to the lee side, maybe. I haven't actually thought about where that comes from. Toot says, preparing to tack, tacking now. Nice. Chris says, I use ready about then lee ho. Yeah, okay. When the rudders are across. Nice. Crawling across around ice chest is my problem. Yeah. All right, we've got Dave on board, Impulse Racing Team online. Great to have you with us, Dave. All right, so Chris says the Hurricane 5.9 and Prindle 19 are almost sister boats. The 19 actually carries a few extra square foot, and the 19 MX carries about 2 square meters more. And then Chris says that the 5.9 is 2.43 wide. Not a bad guess, I think, with 2.45. Yeah, I think the Prindle 19 was around a good 10 years before. I'm just putting it out there. Think about 10 years before the Hurricane 5.9 came about, I believe. All right, so jibing now. Let's jibe. So we've tacked. Now we're going to jibe. So firstly, in light winds, where to put yourselves if you're going to jibe. Right, what colour was the boat there? It was blue. So, did I mention what went wrong coming on Sunday, the usual time? It's going to be massive. You should check it out. It's going to be a good one. Some editing in there. All right, so on the downwind point of sail, light winds, most boats, light winds, downwind, you want to get, in fact, all boats downwind in the light stuff. If you want to sail fast, you definitely want to be getting nicely far forwards like this. And then on the jibe, of course, this is the hull. So the original leeward hull is the hull which is going to be turning the smaller distance, because this hull, if we're going to end up over here, is going to have to go all the way like that, whereas this one is just going to have to do that. Much shorter distance turned by the starboard hull in this situation. Which means the crew on the jibe ideally wants to stay on the leeward side until the jibe is pretty much complete. Very nice. Okay, so for the helm on the jibe, pretty standard technique in the light winds. So he's going to go from there. Then phase 2 would be, let's have phase 2 here, would be crew still in the same spot, helm now in the middle at the back. So just by going into the middle at the back, we are taking some of the weight off that original windward hull. And then, as we know, as we should know, when we go for a jibe, we're putting the stick round first, grabbing the stick on the other side of the main sheet is here, grabbing it on the new side of the main sheet, and then pushing. So we're pushing from this side to initiate the turn. And then again, as soon as the booms come across, we're going to sit down, straighten up, sit down, look forwards. Key points. And then at that time, when the boom comes across, that would be when the crew wants to move across the boat. And what I found, I haven't done that much light wind Hobie 16 crewing, but when I was in South Africa with Dave, what I found when I was crewing the boat was it's so much easier to move across the boat smoothly, like from here. This is pretty out there stuff, but to actually stand up and go around the front of the mast, so much easier to get across the boat smoothly. But you do have to watch where you're putting your feet, and if you're thinking about doing that, it might even be worth a bit of practice on land first, and just try to reduce the amount of steps that you're taking to get across the boat. So it's not like a little mincy shuffle, but so it's like a kind of first step would be maybe your, let's say, front foot to the other side of the mast, then the other foot up to the mast, first foot, then onto the new side, second foot follows, sit down. As few movements as possible. Very good to do that, I think. It's good exercise. But again, if it's flat water. Yeah, so that would be the light wind jibing crew movements, I would say. And then it's windy, we want to be moving back a bit. So firstly, if we're sailing with 2 sails, shouldn't really make much difference which type of boat it is. If you're sailing with 2 sails, the helm would probably want to be right to the back on the trampoline, and the crew would be anywhere from pretty much sitting on his knee if it's really windy to sort of that kind of area. This isn't that the crew's really big, it's just the crew would want to be somewhere in that circle just there. All right, and then as we go into the jibe, I would say it's a really good idea for the crew to go to the new side before the boom comes across. There are 2 big advantages to this. The first one is safety. If you've already gone across before the boom comes across, it means the boom can't hit you because the boom's going away from you. So go across before the boom goes across as the crew. So as soon as the helm says head down, because you never know, the boom could come across, but get under the boom onto your new side before it comes across. As the helm, you're pretty much exactly the same as what we were doing in the light winds. Very important in the strong winds not to have your hand when you're steering the boat into the jibe between where the main sheet is and where it's going to go. Because if it's windy and you do a fairly slammy jibe, which is possible, the main sheet's going to go into your arm, could cause some discomfort, which you don't want. So good technique is more important when it's windy. Check out the jibing technique videos that I've done for more on that. But definitely crew go under the boom before the boom goes across. But just make sure that you don't disappear into the water off the other side of the boat. If anybody's done that and they've got it on camera, we need to see that on an episode of What Went Wrong. So send that in. Yes, please. All right. So there we go. I think that pretty much covers it. Helm and crew positions for the tacking and jibing. Then the last one is, let's have a fresh boat, shall we? That boat's looking a bit tired. The last one is if we're sailing downwind with the kite up when it's windy. So the crew would be right at the back, and then the helm would be here when we're going downwind with the kite up. Let's have a sail. One sail will do. So the helm and crew movements procedure. So there's, when you're going downwind with the kite up and you're going to do something, it's very important to make, to make sure that your communications are very loud, because especially if you're talking to the crew as the helm, he's behind you. So you're going to have to really shout for him to hear. So you would shout, right, we're gonna jibe, or do you think we should jibe? Crew said yes, and then the crew would then want to come in off the trapeze whilst keeping the spinnaker filled, because we don't want to let the boat slow down when we're going into a windy jibe with the spinnaker up. The way we're getting through the windy jibe, whether it's with the spinnaker up or not, is to go into that jibe as fast as possible. If we slow down at all, then that's when the rig is going to load up with pressure, and we're more likely to stick the bows in when the mainsail comes across. So crew comes in, keeping the spinnaker filled. Then once the crew, I would say, once the crew has unhooked from the trapeze, that's like the green light for the helm that, yes, we can initiate, but it's always nice to ask. So as the helm, once the crew's on the boat, you just say ready. Crew says ready. No messing about. If you're ready, say ready. If you're nearly ready, you've got to gauge it. Can you say ready, or can you make nearly ready into ready? There we are. Yeah, so as soon as ready, then I'd be helming personally, and I think a lot of people, when it's windy, be helming by holding the tiller connecting bar. And it's such an easy movement as the helm. I might even do a video just on that movement, because it's really nice. You just roll across the boat because you're just holding the tiller connecting bar. You just initiate, grab it on the new side, and then just turn your back, and you're almost in the new position already. Crew goes across as fast as they can, keeping the spinnaker flying, sheets the kite in, hooks on, out on the trapeze, and off we go. Boom. Right, I'm just going to take a commercial break at this point. I thought that was pretty good. If you haven't been to totaljoyrider.com recently, there is some new stuff in there, so worth having a look. Pop in. It's a great way of supporting the channel, as is, of course, on Patreon, where you can support the channel with like a monthly donation. It's very nice of you if you do, and it does help me to keep the videos coming, because it's not long now until I'm going to have to get a new computer, because this one is starting to struggle. So thanks very much in advance. Okay, back to the live chat. All right. There's a bit of live chat. All right. The Prindle 19 was first made in 1985. Yeah, I think in that case, it's only a couple of years difference between the Prindle 19 and the Hurricane 5.9. Okay. Russell says, big mistake I see a lot is new sailors trying to slow down before a jibe. Once the sail pops over, the apparent wind is bigger and leads to a capsize. Yeah, definitely. Keep the boat speed up when going into the turn. Definitely. But don't head up to get the boat speed up. You don't want to be going to go into a jibe. You don't want to be going any higher than that normal 90 degrees apparent wind angle, because then you'll have a larger angle to turn through, which is actually going to lead to you slowing down. And again, Toot says, catch tackle as it passes over, delay to violent crash. Nice. In fact, one thing when I was sailing with Dave in South Africa that we discovered that I do in a windy jibe is because sometimes it's only when you're actually talking about what you're doing when you actually realize what you do. But I encourage the mainsail to go across earlier by kind of, you initiate the turn, grab the main sheet like that around all of the ropes going down like that, and you kind of pull it. And what that does is brings the leech more into the middle of the boat, which encourages the sail to go across earlier. And if you can get the sail to go across earlier, it's always going to be less violent jibe. All right. Chris says, I believe the great Reg White, who designed the 5.9, just cut and altered one of his tornado molds. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a tornado mold, which was, yeah, just, yeah, I think just more volume got put into it. So that could well be how it came about. All right, I've got Jeffrey on board in Lake Clear, Washington, USA, who says your videos got me back into sailing at Holy 16. Nice, glad to be of service, helping to spread a bit of enthusiasm for this great sport, which we are all into in one way or another. All right, Stephen says, tried my shiny new harness last week, being snug. It loosened up on the trapeze, had to pull the straps. Pleased to know I'm slimmer than I thought. Great stuff. Oh, we got Tim on board as well. Oh, Tim, I think it's been a while since you've been in the live chat, I believe. Good morning. Great to have you on board. Okay, no more questions in the live chat, please, because we are coming up to an hour and I've got a children's birthday party to go to today. So very exciting times there. Oh, yes, I hope there is ice cream and cake. Or lager would be nice also. All right, Matthew's on board in Baltimore. Better late than never. Yeah, that certainly is right at the end. Happy birthday. Yeah, it's not my birthday. It's someone else. It's my son's best friend. So that's a big one. All right. So one last thing in the preloaded is from Brendan, who asks, and I think we've got some people on in the live chat who should be able to help with this. So this is to the community. He's got a 1979 Nacra 5.2, and he'd like to know if we think that the mast is going to be strong enough to support the double trapeze. Now let's get in there in the live chat, please. Is a 1979 Nacra 5.2 mast going to be strong enough to double trapeze? Yeah, I think I'm going with a yes. I think. Am I right in thinking the Nacra 5.2 does have diamond wires? If it's got diamond wires, I'm definitely going with a yes. But like with any boats which have got single trapeze, which you're adding a second trapeze to, I would certainly just keep an eye on how much weight you're putting onto the trapeze. If you're putting like total 150 kilograms, sorry about that, I am metric, as I'm sure you'll have found. If you're putting about 150 kilograms out onto the trapeze, that will be fine. But if you're looking at two real size men, like 200 kilograms or more of real man on the trapeze, that might just be pushing the envelope a little bit too far. Okay, Chris says we've got Chris, two Chris's in the chat at the moment on this one. Chris in Texas says it does have diamond wires, but he seems to remember it being a double trapeze boat in the first place. And then the other Chris, who sails a Dart 18, says if it's like a Dart 18 mast, don't do it. I did it when I used to sail a Dart 18. I tried putting a double trapeze on to see what it would be like. And strangely, after that, it was probably with about 160 kilograms on the trapeze. After that, it felt different hoisting the mainsail. Could something have happened to the mast? I don't know. All right, Toot says his 5.2 only had a single trapeze. So I'd stick with what I said. If you're looking at up to about 150 kilograms, go for it. See how she likes it. If it's more than that, I would stick to the single trapeze. Okay, yeah, Chris now has got a Chris did have a Dart 18. He's now got a Hurricane 5.9 all the way. And I'm going all